When the divine speaks, it rarely shouts. It whispers through your silence. It's the moment when the world becomes still and you suddenly feel something pressing upon your heart. A voice without sound, a message without words. God does not warn to frighten you. He warns to awaken you. And when he says, "This is my second last warning," it means there is still mercy, still grace, but not forever. You have been guided before, but you ignored it. You felt that inner pull, that nudge to change, yet you waited. You said, "Tomorrow I'll start. Tomorrow I'll be better." But what if tomorrow never arrives the same way again? The divine warnings are not about fear. They are invitations to return to your truth, to stop drifting in distraction, to stop pretending you're fine when your soul is whispering for help. When God says, "This is your second last warning," he is not speaking to your ears. He is speaking to your spirit, reminding you that the time for excuses has ended. When the divine speaks, it rarely speaks through thunder. It does not come wrapped in lightning or in the noise of chaos. It speaks through silence, through stillness, through that quiet moment when everything in you slows down and you suddenly feel a pull in your heart that you cannot explain. That is how God communicates. And yet, most people never hear it because they are too busy listening to everything else. They are surrounded by distractions, by voices, by fears, by desires. They move so fast that even when heaven whispers, they are already 10 steps ahead, chasing something that does not matter. When God says, "This is my second last warning," he is not trying to scare you. He is trying to slow you down, to stop you from destroying what he built in you. There is something sacred about the silence before change. It is in that silence where you are given a chance to listen. But listening requires humility. It requires stillness. It requires you to put down the noise of the world and open your heart to the whisper that comes from beyond understanding. Many people think warnings from God come like punishments, like storms, like disasters. But no, the first warnings are soft. They come through feelings, through intuition, through small moments that make you uncomfortable, through people who cross your path and say something that feels too precise to be coincidence. Those are the divine signs that call you back. But when you ignore them, they get louder. When you keep pretending not to hear, God turns the whisper into a storm because that's the only way to get your attention. The voice that calls in silence is not there to frighten you. It's there to awaken you. It is a voice of love, not of anger. It is a call to remember what you once promised to become. Each of us carries a divine potential, a sacred design that we are meant to live out. But somewhere along the way, we drift. We chase what sparkles instead of what shines. We trade wisdom for comfort, purpose for pleasure, awareness for approval. And then, when everything starts to feel empty, we call it bad luck. But it's not luck, it's alignment. God's warnings come when you've drifted too far from your alignment. They come not to punish you, but to pull you back to where your soul belongs. Every soul that hears a warning is blessed, because it means God has not given up on you. He is still trying to reach you. He is still trying to remind you that you are not lost. You have just forgotten the way. There's a difference between being lost and being disconnected. Lost means you don't know where you are. Disconnected means you know exactly where you are, but you can't feel the connection anymore. When God speaks and you feel that strange restlessness inside, it's not confusion, it's a signal. It's heaven tugging at your soul saying, remember why you're here. The second last warning means mercy still exists. It means you still have time to listen, to change, to realign, to stop pretending that you're okay when you're not. You know that feeling when you look in the mirror and see your own eyes, but feel a distance, like the reflection doesn't match who you are anymore. That is the soul's cry for return. That is the moment when the divine voice echoes inside of you saying, you are drifting too far. Every time you ignore that moment, you make it harder to come back. Every time you silence the inner voice with noise, entertainment, or denial, you make the whisper fade. But even if the whisper fades, God will not. He will wait. He will wait until you are ready to hear again. This is the nature of divine patience. It's infinite, but not without consequence. The universe always balances what you ignore. So when you fail to listen to the call of silence, life starts to rearrange itself to force you to stop. Sometimes that means loss, sometimes confusion, sometimes pain. Pain is the language of awakening. It is the final attempt to pull you back when you've ignored everything else. And that's why God warns. He doesn't want to take away, He wants to restore. But He cannot restore what you refuse to face. The voice of God speaks in patterns. When you are too busy, He sends pauses. When you are too proud, He sends humbling. When you are too comfortable, He sends disruption. These are not punishments. These are mirrors. Divine mirrors that show you where you've gone blind. Every difficulty you face carries a message inside it. And the more you resist reading that message, the more intense the situation becomes. When God says, "This is my second last warning," it means that time is shifting. It means you are entering the final stages of choice. You can no longer drift without direction. You must either rise or remain asleep. But here is the truth. The silence that calls you is never harsh. It's gentle. It waits for you to notice it. It's like standing by a quiet river at dawn. You can hear the flow if you stand still enough. You can feel the current if you stop moving. But the moment you start running, you lose it. The divine voice works the same way. It is always there, but only the still can hear it. You are not being punished for your distractions. You are being reminded that peace requires presence. And presence requires surrender. Surrender doesn't mean giving up. It means giving in to the higher plan that you cannot yet understand. The reason many people never change, even after hearing a warning, is because they confuse surrender with weakness. They think listening to divine guidance means losing control. But in truth, you were never in control. You were only in charge of awareness. The moment you surrender, you return to balance. You return to that quiet trust that says, "I may not know what happens next, but I know I am being guided." That trust is the foundation of all transformation. When you ignore the call of silence, you live through noise, and noise creates illusion. You begin to mistake movement for progress, attention for love, validation for purpose. You start to chase outcomes instead of alignment, and soon life feels heavy. The laughter feels forced. The achievements feel empty. That emptiness is not failure. It's the voice of God echoing inside of you, waiting to be heard again. Every time you feel that quiet sadness for no reason, that is not depression, that is disconnection. That is your higher self asking you to slow down, to listen again, to remember what matters. God's second last warning is a gift. A reminder that time is precious, that your journey is sacred, and that you were not born to wander endlessly. You were born to awaken. You were born to hear, to see, to return. The greatest tragedy is not death, it's living without awareness of your divine connection. And every warning from God is a chance to prevent that tragedy. It's a doorway back to your own soul. But to walk through it, you must be honest. You must be willing to admit that you've ignored the signs, that you've been distracted, that you've built walls around your spirit. Honesty is the key that unlocks divine guidance. When you admit that you've gone silent to your soul, you begin to hear again. Many people pray for answers, but never make space for silence. They ask God to speak, but their hearts are full of noise. And so, when the answer comes, they miss it. The divine speaks not in the language of words, but in the rhythm of stillness. The silence that calls you is not empty. It's full of meaning. When you meditate, when you breathe, when you detach from the constant movement of the world, you begin to feel the pulse of that higher frequency. It doesn't come with force. It comes with gentleness. It comes like a feather landing on still water. And if your inner world is turbulent, you will not notice it. The reason God warns before he acts is because he wants transformation, not destruction. The universe is built on mercy first, justice later. Mercy is the whisper. Justice is the echo that follows if you ignore it. Right now, if you feel a deep call to change, that's mercy. If you feel uncomfortable where you are, that's mercy. If your plans are breaking apart, that's mercy. Because something higher is trying to realign your path. You are being called home, not physically, but spiritually. The divine is saying, remember me before you remember the world. Sometimes you don't realize how far you've drifted until God stops everything around you. When you lose people, when opportunities disappear, when the noise of life fades, that's not rejection. That's redirection. He takes away what keeps you deaf so that you can finally hear. And when you begin to hear again, you start to understand that everything you feared losing was only keeping you from seeing. Every door that closed was protecting you from walking into something that would have cost your peace. Every delay was a message saying, slow down, you are not ready yet. So when the voice in silence calls you now, do not ignore it, sit with it, let it speak. You may not understand every word, but you will feel its truth. It will feel like calmness wrapped in urgency, like peace that demands action. That's how you know it's divine. Because fear pushes you, but truth pulls you. The divine voice pulls you gently toward what's right. It doesn't rush, it redirects. There's a saying that the greatest distance in life is between knowing and doing. Many people know what they need to change, but they keep waiting for a sign that feels louder. But the truth is, the louder signs only come when the softer ones have been ignored. If you feel this message, it means you are standing in that sacred space between warning and grace. You are being offered one more chance to listen before the consequences begin to speak on behalf of the divine. So listen now, not with your ears, but with your soul. Pay attention to what is happening around you. The patterns, the repeated lessons, the moments that make you pause. Those are not random, they are divine communication. When God speaks twice, the second time means urgency. It means you've been chosen for correction, not condemnation. It means he sees something in you that you have stopped seeing in yourself. You may have made mistakes. You may have drifted far. But that doesn't mean you've been disqualified from grace. The fact that you can still feel the call means the connection still exists. The second last warning is the proof that you are still loved, still guided, still worth the divine effort. So do not run from it. Don't silence it with distraction. Don't numb it with excuses. Sit in your stillness and ask, what is God trying to show me? Then listen. The answer may not come instantly, but it will arrive. The voice that calls in silence will never abandon you. It may step back when you refuse to listen, but it will always wait. It is patient because it knows who you are beyond your confusion. It knows that within your chaos lies peace, within your fear lies courage, within your weakness lies divine strength. All you have to do is remember. Remember that the voice is not outside of you. It's within you. The divine doesn't shout from the heavens, it whispers from your heart. So when you hear, "This is my second last warning," understand, it is not the sound of punishment, it is the sound of love trying one last time. It is mercy speaking before consequence. It is light trying to reach you before darkness teaches you. You have been given another chance to turn inward, to reconnect with the truth, to realign with what your soul already knows. You are not too late, but you are being reminded that time is sacred. Every breath you take is a gift, every heartbeat is a message, every sunrise is an opportunity to start again. The silence that calls you now is not empty. It's filled with purpose. It's saying, listen, reflect, return, because soon, the silence may no longer whisper, It may become a mirror that shows you what happens when the call is ignored. So stand still, listen deeply. Let your heart remember what your mind has forgotten. The divine voice is not somewhere distant. It is right here now, calling softly inside your awareness. You still have time, but not forever. That is your warning. That is your invitation. That is love disguised as awakening. There are moments in life when you look back and realize that every sign was there. Every whisper, every redirection, every discomfort, it was all trying to guide you. But at that time, you didn't see it. You were too busy asking for clarity while ignoring what clarity already looked like. This is the burden of ignoring the signs. It is not that life stops speaking to you, it's that you stop listening. God doesn't abandon people. People abandon awareness. The truth is, most warnings don't come in the form of words. They come through feelings, through experiences, through patterns that repeat until you pay attention. When you keep walking the same path that leads you nowhere, when you keep attracting the same type of pain, when you keep losing the same kind of peace, that is not coincidence. That is correction. The universe does not speak in randomness. Everything that happens carries a message within it. The pain is the messenger. The delay is the messenger. The emptiness is the messenger. But when you are numb to meaning, you call these moments bad luck. You complain instead of learning. You question instead of listening. You fight the very thing that was meant to heal you. The burden of ignoring the signs is that life has to keep raising its voice. At first, it whispers through intuition. Then it speaks through patterns. Then it shouts through pain. And when that still doesn't work, it begins to remove things, people, opportunities, peace, direction, until you are forced to face yourself. That's how divine guidance works. When God says, "This is my second last warning," He is saying, "I've shown you enough times already. I've given you enough hints. I've protected you even when you didn't see it. Now it's time to choose." Look back at your life. Think of all those times when something didn't work out, when someone left, when you were delayed, when you felt an unexplainable resistance in your plans. You called it a setback. But what if it was protection? What if that was God saving you from something you couldn't see yet? We often cry over doors that close, not realizing they were never meant to open. Every closed door is mercy in disguise. Every loss is a message that says, "This was not your direction." But when you ignore that message, when you keep forcing what's not aligned, life becomes heavier. It is easy to miss divine communication because it doesn't speak to your mind, it speaks to your awareness. The mind seeks logic. The soul understands energy. When something feels wrong, it usually is. When you feel drained around certain people, it's not your imagination. It's your spirit reacting to imbalance. But when you ignore that feeling, you invite suffering, and then you wonder why peace feels distant. God gave you intuition as a compass. Every time you ignore it, you drift farther away from yourself. Sometimes the signs come as repetition. The same mistake, the same disappointment, the same kind of pain. That is not coincidence, that is curriculum. You are being taught a lesson that you refuse to learn the first time. The universe doesn't punish, it repeats. It will repeat the same situation with different faces until your awareness shifts. Once you understand, the repetition ends. That's how divine education works. But until then, the weight of unlearned lessons sits on your shoulders. That is the burden you carry when you ignore the signs. And yet, in all this, God is patient. He never removes the lesson without first offering understanding. He keeps giving chances. Even when you lose your way, He still sends signals. They appear as coincidences too strong to be random. A stranger's words that echo what you needed to hear. A dream that feels too real. A sudden inner knowing that something has to change. These are not accidents. These are alignments. The divine speaks through everything. Through pain, through peace, through people, through timing. You just have to learn how to listen not with your ears, but with your being. You see, the biggest illusion is thinking that ignoring the signs makes the truth disappear. It doesn't. It only delays your alignment. Truth waits. It does not chase. It simply holds its ground until you return to it. And the longer you delay, the heavier life feels, because you are carrying the weight of resistance. Every time you say, "I'll change later," you add another layer of delay. Every time you silence your inner voice to please the world, you bury your own peace deeper. And every time you act against what your soul knows is right, you create inner conflict. That conflict becomes anxiety, confusion, and pain. Not because life is cruel, but because you are out of tune with your higher self. The divine wants harmony within you, not chaos. But harmony requires awareness. Awareness requires honesty. And honesty requires courage. The courage to look at your patterns and admit, "I've been ignoring what's been obvious all along." Many people don't lack signs, they lack humility to accept them. When the truth hurts, they call it negativity. When someone corrects them, they call it criticism. When God blocks something, they call it misfortune. This is how people stay stuck, by refusing to see guidance as grace. Every warning is an act of love. It means the divine still believes in your capacity to awaken. It means you are still being given time. When God says, "This is my second last warning," it's not a threat, it's mercy dressed in urgency. It means that consequences are approaching, but transformation is still possible. It means that the doors are not yet closed, but they soon will be if you keep pretending you can't hear. There is a price for ignoring signs. That price is peace. You may still have success, but it will feel empty. You may still smile, but it won't be real. You may still have people around you, but your soul will feel alone, because you cannot fake alignment. You can fake confidence, fake control, fake happiness, but you cannot fake peace. And peace is the first thing to leave when you resist divine direction. It is the quiet indicator that something within you needs to change. God's signs are everywhere. Sometimes they are soft, like a feeling that won't go away. Sometimes they are sharp, like a loss you didn't expect. Sometimes they come through people who challenge you, who mirror your wounds, who force you to confront parts of yourself you've been avoiding. But every sign points toward awakening. It says, "Pay attention." This is where growth begins. The burden of ignoring signs is that you end up living in cycles that feel endless. You keep reliving the same emotional storm in different seasons. You keep meeting the same type of person in a different body. You keep chasing the same validation in different ways. And each time it hurts more, because your soul knows the truth, but your habits keep betraying it. The divine will not let you rest in false comfort forever. He will allow temporary comfort to collapse so that permanent peace can begin. That collapse is mercy, even though it feels like pain. When you finally get tired of suffering, when you finally get tired of pretending, you don't see the signs. You will begin to surrender, and that surrender will feel like relief. It will feel like finally exhaling after holding your breath for years, because the moment you accept the message, the struggle stops. Not because the situation changes, but because your awareness does. The same truth that once felt painful now feels freeing. That's the power of seeing what was always there. But you must understand, God's patience is not endless in opportunity. There comes a moment when the lesson must become reality. The second last warning means you are approaching that moment. It means that your choices are about to bear fruit, whether good or bad. You can either plant awareness now or harvest regret later. The choice is always yours. The divine will not force awakening upon you. He will simply remove everything that distracts you until you realize that listening was always easier than resisting. When people ignore divine signs, they often justify it with logic. They say, "It doesn't make sense yet." But faith often doesn't make sense until after it's lived. The signs aren't meant to make sense to your intellect, they're meant to be recognized by your spirit. You don't reason with intuition, you recognize it. And once you recognize it, you act. Not because you're sure, but because you trust. That trust is the bridge between divine warning and divine blessing. The burden of ignoring signs is not only personal, it affects everything around you. When you resist growth, you also delay the healing of those connected to you. Your energy affects others. Your denial spreads confusion. Your awareness, when awakened, becomes a light for many, but when dimmed, it keeps others lost too. That's why divine warnings come to individuals but impact generations. God corrects one person to guide many. When you listen, you don't only save yourself, you save others from repeating your mistakes. And so, the next time you feel something telling you, this path is wrong, listen. The next time you feel drained after spending time with someone, honor that feeling. The next time something doesn't flow, stop forcing it. Resistance is not always a test, sometimes it's protection. When doors close, don't keep knocking out of pride. Trust that divine timing is never late, and divine rejection is often redirection. The signs are not against you, they are for you. They are the language of love written in the rhythm of your life. When you learn to listen early, life becomes lighter. You no longer need pain to teach you. Peace begins to guide you. You begin to move not by fear, but by flow. And that's the goal of every warning, to bring you back to flow, to harmony, to alignment. God doesn't want obedience out of fear, He wants awareness out of love. Because love listens. Love pays attention. Love doesn't need to be shouted at to understand what is sacred. So if you are hearing this now, and something within you feels that this message is personal, don't ignore it. Don't overthink it. Just listen. The divine has already been showing you signs in your life. Maybe in the things that are falling apart. Maybe in the peace that has disappeared. Maybe in the restlessness that keeps you awake at night. That restlessness is not random. It is your higher self knocking from the inside, saying, something must change. The longer you ignore it, the heavier you'll feel. But the moment you decide to pay attention, everything begins to shift. You start to see connections where before you saw chaos. You start to feel peace even when circumstances haven't changed. Because now you're aligned with truth, and truth always brings clarity. The signs never stop, they only become clear to those who choose to see. So pause, reflect. Don't let life keep repeating the same lessons in louder forms. Every time you delay listening, you make the message harder to bear. But if you listen now, quietly, humbly, honestly, you can transform pain into purpose before pain has to deepen. The burden of ignoring the signs is real, but so is the peace that follows awareness. The choice has always been yours. The signs were never hidden. They were only waiting for your eyes to open. And once you open them, you will realize that everything that went wrong was guiding you right back to where you belong. The divine never stops speaking. You simply stopped listening. But you can start again, right here, right now, before the next warning becomes the final one. Because once the lesson becomes reality, silence may no longer call softly, it may call through consequences. Listen before that happens. Listen now. That is how the burden becomes blessing. That is how awareness begins. There is a sacred moment in every life when everything becomes still, when the noise of the world fades, and only one question remains: what am I becoming? That moment, silent yet powerful, is the space between endings and beginnings. It is the moment before transformation. It often arrives disguised as confusion, as fatigue, as uncertainty. But beneath its quiet disguise, something divine is unfolding. God is not punishing you, He is preparing you. He is breaking apart the shell that no longer fits who you are, so that the soul within can breathe again. When you stand in that moment, it feels like standing between two worlds. the world you've known and the one you cannot yet see. One foot still clings to the familiar, the other trembles before the unknown. You sense that something must change, but you do not yet know what or how. This is where transformation begins, not in clarity, but in surrender. Because transformation is not a project you complete, it is a process you allow. It is the unfolding of the divine plan that has been waiting for your trust. The human heart fears transformation because it requires loss. To become something new, something old must dissolve. You must release habits, identities, expectations that once defined you. And yet, this release feels like death. The ego mourns what the spirit celebrates. That mourning is sacred. It is the sound of growth. When God says, "This is my second last warning," He is reminding you that the season of delay is closing, that the time for half-truths and half-growth has ended. You can no longer live in fragments. You must decide which world you belong to, the one of fear or the one of faith. Transformation always begins with discomfort. Nothing beautiful is born in comfort. The seed must break before it sprouts. The caterpillar must dissolve before it flies. And you, too, must go through your own sacred breaking. The divine will not destroy you. It will dismantle what you were never meant to be. It will strip away false strength so that real strength can emerge. It will remove false peace so that true serenity can take its place. It will take away people and places that can no longer vibrate at your new frequency. This is not cruelty, this is cleansing. Every loss in the season before transformation is an act of divine mercy. Many people mistake this breaking for punishment. They say, "Why is everything falling apart?" But the truth is, nothing is falling apart. Everything is falling into place. You prayed for growth, you asked for alignment, you begged for clarity. But growth requires pruning, alignment requires rearranging, and clarity requires emptiness. God is simply answering your prayer in a way your comfort zone doesn't recognize. When the transformation begins, the old energy resists. You will feel pulled in two directions. Part of you wants to move forward, but another part wants to hold on. This inner tug of war is the battle between destiny and habit. Destiny whispers, "There's more for you." Habit says, "But this is what I know." And if you listen closely, you'll realize that habit speaks the language of safety, but destiny speaks the language of truth. Safety can protect you, but only truth can free you. To transform, you must choose freedom over familiarity. Transformation is rarely dramatic. It happens in quiet decisions repeated daily. It's when you stop reacting to everything that offends you. It's when you start responding from peace instead of pride. It's when you wake up and choose awareness over autopilot. These small shifts may seem insignificant, but they are the sparks that ignite lasting change. The divine doesn't expect perfection, only participation. Every time you choose presence over distraction, honesty over denial, faith over fear, you participate in your own evolution. There is a mysterious silence that comes before every transformation. It feels like loneliness, but it's actually recalibration. God isolates you not to harm you, but to reintroduce you to yourself. He removes the noise so that you can hear your own soul again. The people who once understood you may no longer understand you, not because they changed, but because you are outgrowing the conversation. This loneliness is not emptiness, it's expansion. Space must be created for the new self to breathe. So if you find yourself alone, misunderstood, detached, don't rush to fill the silence. Sit in it. The silence before transformation is sacred soil. Seeds grow there. You might not see results immediately. The caterpillar doesn't know that its dark cocoon will soon open to light. It only knows it can't go back to crawling. So it waits, trusting a process it doesn't understand. That is what faith looks like during transformation. Trusting what you cannot see. Your cocoon moments are not punishment. They are protection. God hides you to rebuild you. He hides you from what would distract you, from what would drain you, from what would destroy the version of you he's forming. The hidden season is holy. Don't rush it. In this in-between space, your emotions will fluctuate. Some days you'll feel certain, other days you'll doubt everything. That's okay. Even doubt can serve transformation when you don't let it control you. Every question is an invitation to deeper understanding. Every delay is a lesson in patience. Transformation doesn't ask for speed, it asks for surrender. And surrender is not giving up. It's giving over. It's handing your plans back to the source that wrote them long before you were born. You may notice that things that once satisfied you no longer do. Conversations that once entertained you now drain you. The pleasures that once distracted you now feel meaningless. This emptiness is not depression, it's detox. Your spirit is cleansing itself from what no longer resonates. Let the emptiness do its work. Don't rush to fill it with noise. Transformation is the process of unlearning false joy so that true joy can be recognized. The moment before transformation often feels heavy because your old energy is dying. You are shedding skins that once felt like home, but you cannot enter a new season wearing the clothes of the old one. Every rebirth requires shedding, so let it happen. Cry if you must, rest if you must, but don't run backward, because behind the pain there is purpose. Behind the endings there is evolution. God's second last warning is not a threat. It's an act of love saying, do not miss this shift. Transformation is already happening, but awareness determines whether it becomes growth or chaos. If you resist, the change will still happen, but it will hurt. If you surrender, it will still stretch you, but it will bless you. The choice is never between change and no change, it is between conscious and unconscious change. Either way, life moves. The wise choose to move with it. The divine is always sculpting you. Every loss chisels pride, every delay polishes patience, every disappointment refines faith. Nothing is wasted. Even the mistakes you regret have been used to carve humility and wisdom into your character. The artist never despises the marble. He shapes it until the form within is revealed. That's what transformation really is. God revealing what was always inside you. During this process, trust becomes your anchor. When everything seems uncertain, when plans collapse, when answers hide, hold on to trust. Trust that your life is unfolding exactly as it should. Trust that every tear is watering new growth. Trust that even in silence, heaven is at work. The unseen is often more active than the visible. When nothing seems to be happening, everything is actually shifting beneath the surface. Many people give up just before their breakthrough. They interpret silence as abandonment, when it's actually incubation. The seed underground feels the pressure of soil before it feels the light of sun. Don't mistake pressure for punishment. The weight you feel is proof of potential. God only presses on what He plans to raise. If He's applying pressure, it's because there's power hidden in you that needs to rise. Transformation will test your patience. It will ask you to stay gentle while everything within you wants to rush. But rushing breaks what patience builds. God works in rhythms, not deadlines. You cannot microwave enlightenment. You must allow the process to unfold naturally. The river doesn't force its flow. It moves with gravity, trusting the path carved for it. You too must flow with the current of divine timing. At some point, you will notice subtle signs of rebirth, moments of unexpected peace, insights that come like light in darkness, small synchronicities that confirm you're on the right path. These are glimpses of the new you emerging. Don't doubt them. Nurture them. The moment before transformation always carries hints of what's coming next, but only the attentive notice them. And then, slowly, you'll realize that what you thought was breaking you was actually opening you. You'll notice that the tears softened you, that the losses made you lighter, that the silence strengthened your intuition. The very pain you resented becomes the foundation of your peace. This is the mystery of divine transformation. It turns wounds into wisdom, endings into evolution, and warnings into awakenings. You will know transformation has begun when you stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me?" That question marks the shift from victimhood to consciousness. It means you no longer see life as happening to you, but through you. That is maturity, the awareness that even challenges serve the plan. In the moment before transformation, fear will whisper that you are not ready. But readiness is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move despite it. Courage is not loud, it's quiet faith. It's the soft voice inside that says, "I don't know what's coming, but I trust who's guiding me." The universe honors such faith. Once you take one honest step toward growth, life moves 10 steps toward you. Doors open, paths align, strength appears. Because transformation rewards participation, not perfection. When you cross that invisible line between resistance and surrender, something incredible happens. You begin to see beauty even in what you don't understand. You begin to thank the pain that shaped you. You begin to feel gratitude for delays that once frustrated you. Gratitude becomes your vision, and that vision changes everything. Gratitude turns warning into wisdom, chaos into clarity, and then, without realizing it, you'll wake up one day and feel lighter. The world will still be the same, but you won't be. What used to trigger you will no longer touch you. What used to scare you will now strengthen you. The same silence that once felt empty will now feel full of presence. That's the sign of transformation completed, when what once broke you now builds you. But remember, transformation is not a one-time event. It is a lifelong rhythm. You will enter many cocoons in your journey. Each time, the divine will call you higher, deeper, freer. Each time, you will be invited to release a layer of who you were to reveal more of who you are. The warnings will come whenever you begin to drift. They are not punishments, they are reminders that growth never ends. So if you feel that you are in that moment now, in the silence, in the uncertainty, in the in-between, do not fear it. You are not being forgotten. You are being formed. The divine hand is shaping you into something stronger, softer, wiser. Let it happen. Trust it. Flow with it. Transformation is not found in running away from what hurts. It's found in walking through it with awareness. The moment before transformation is holy ground. It is where your old self bows to make space for your true self. It is where fear turns into faith, confusion into clarity, endings into new beginnings. And when you finally step through that invisible doorway, you will look back and realize that every warning was mercy. Every tear was instruction, every silence was protection. You will thank God not for making the path easy, but for making it meaningful. You will understand that the moment before transformation was not the end. It was the beginning of becoming who you were always meant to be. So breathe deeply. Stand still. Feel the weight of this sacred transition. Let go of what you cannot carry into the next season. Open your hands. Open your heart. The transformation has already begun. And when you surrender to it, you will finally see that nothing was ever breaking you. It was all preparing you to rise.